Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I am Giri Prakash, and I'll be moderating a discussion on the premiumization of the liquor industry for the federal. Consumers are beginning to opt for quality over quantity with drinks. Most of those who buy alcohol are choosing higher-end products, and companies are beginning to cater to this market type. This might be due to several reasons like minimum alcohol unit pricing, a change in alcohol popularity, and drinks going in and out of fashion. It's pretty clear that premiumization of alcohol is going to stay for the foreseeable future. For this discussion, we have Ms. Neeta Kappor, who is the CEO of International Spirits and Wines Association, an industry body representing both domestic as well as international spirits players in the country, and Mr. Suresh Menon, Secretary General of ISWAI as guests. Thanks for accepting our invitation, Ms. Kappor and Mr. Menon.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll start with Ms. Kappor, and if you could give us some kind of a bird's eye view about what exactly is happening as far as the premiumization is concerned in the domestic market.
So, Giri, you're absolutely right. And this is a trend that we have noticed post the pandemic, and we believe that the trend is now to stay. There is a significant consumer preference of product quality, and they are willing to pay the price. And hence, therefore, you are seeing that the premiumization of the industry at the top end has started taking, firm roots now. So that's happening at one end. On the other end, you're also seeing a certain amount of downtrading taking place. So the start of the industry as well as the top end of the industry, both are seeing polarization of trends that are taking place. Adding to that are also the white spirits that are kind of, because of the innovation and the craft products that are coming up. You can see that trend, albeit in metro cities. Still very young but promising. However, India will continue to be a brown spirits market. We don't see that changing over the next decade or so.
Mr. Menon, when did this trend start, and was there some kind of a trigger point when it started? Could you sort of share this with us?
So companies over time, particularly with pricing control as being one of the things forced on them by the state governments, they have been looking to get higher realizations for their products. And hence, they have been looking at moving consumers up the value chain. So say you had a particular product which was made from say molasses. Then over time, they came up with a similar product, but now made from grain, and charging a higher price for that product. Because the moment you have an interstate pricing comparison, notwithstanding the differential operating conditions, then you have a challenge as far as the economics of the industry are concerned. So perforce companies came up with newer products, and through some kind of what would you say, recounting the positives of that of those products, move the consumers up the value chain. So this has been happening since long, but I think over more recently, thanks to COVID, thanks to better economic conditions amongst people, consumers of alcohol, people have now started journeying up. I mean, there is this the thing often said in the industry that people drink labels. So on a daily consumption for themselves, they may probably be consuming a particular brand. But when you are serving people who are invited to your home, or you are at an on-premise, you probably go a couple of notches up.
Okay. Ms. Kappor, do you think that premiumization, actually, there was a lot of focus on premiumization partly because of what happened during the pandemic, and a whole lot of customers actually on-premise, like what you say is on in at home kind of drink that they came up with, and they started consuming there. Was that one of the reasons why that this actually led to the growth?
So I'm going to pull back a little, Giri, and remind you that the trend actually started with when we were experiencing duty-free environment, and then we saw the same duty-free environment coming up on the streets of some cities, and browsable outlets started coming up. So I think that was the trigger that kind of brought premiumization and brands into the forefront. What really the increase in in-home consumption did, Giri, was really to break down the barriers of culture. What I call the drinking on the sly, I guess, got taken care of. And that's what the in-home consumption brought. And the fact that, you were going to now be drinking at home, so quality product and label mattered, at least to a certain section of the people. But the trigger was the retail outlets. The trigger was as we more traveled outside.
So the consumers experienced better quality brands, and that sort of ushered in they wanted
better quality brands. Some were curious enough to understand so many range, so many product opportunities. What are the differences? And that's something we picked up in the retail survey that we completed, that the browsable outlets, as we call them, are actually offering consumer information and experience and safety. So these things mattered. They only built on the pandemic trends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually was talking to a few industry players, and they were telling me that one of the reasons could be because the extra neutral alcohol, which apparently the government wants more of that now for their gasoline needs, and the increase in raw material prices might have been one of the trigger points for premiumization to grow so fast. Because at the lower end, for some of the, at least for some of the major players, it doesn't really make sense to be at that price point.
So I think premiumization, Giri, is not just a question of an MRP increase. It's also a whole question of a brand experience, a product experience. So it can't be just, I've taken my prices up and hence, therefore, I am a premium brand. No, I mean, it calls for a whole host of work that needs to be done around that. So whereas inflation has been a triple whammy, the premiumization trend is very distinct from price increases. Right. And you've seen this in category after category, as simple as chocolates to, I mean, you name it. And you will see that India was already veering towards the premiumization trend. So it's just that in Alcobev, we are uncovering it now, because all we've read in about Alcobev is the Hooch tragedy, and so many people died, and country liquor and cheap products. So I guess that's what's giving attention to a trend which is taking place in most categories. Automobiles or any other category you pick up, and you will see the extreme ends of the structure of the industry really doing well, and the churns are taking place there.
What exactly do you think are the challenges these players are facing in India when it comes to premiumization? And as everybody knows that each state is like a country in India, so they have their own slabs, and especially about Karnataka, they have several of them. And how does one go around that challenge? So
yeah, I'm glad you asked me about Karnataka, because I often say this to people that Karnataka is an oxymoron as a state, whereas the demographic profile is clearly towards premiumization. The state duties and the state policies are contrarian to what the trend really is of the state. Premium. And which is why I said it's an oxymoron, because premiumization in this state, you're not going to believe it, is less than 6%.
Oh, okay.
Compared to even a state like, UP, which is at 12.5%. Or for that matter, Telangana, which is at 54%. So Karnataka seems to be an island on its own. where, the policy is essentially geared towards cheap liquor and geared towards a mass of consumers, which are in any case fast evolving and moving. So
Mhm.
yeah, that is a concern with Karnataka. I was just rounding up that point, and and that's exactly what we've been talking to states, that particularly the state of Karnataka, that the rest of the country is experiencing premiumization, and there is no reason why you should be leading the premiumization trend. On the contrary, you are in the bottom of the heap as far as a premiumization trend is concerned in the country.
Okay, okay. Mr. Menon, if you can sort of put it in perspective, understand there are several slabs as far as Karnataka is concerned. What does it actually do? I mean, how does it actually sort of prove to be a bit of a issue for premiumization?
So theoretically, Karnataka is a free pricing state, which means the consumer can get, the supplier can get to determine what his product should be priced at. And depending on what the supplier wants to price his product at, he pays a certain amount of duty, which is common across the board, irrespective of price point. And then there is an additional excise duty, which is ad valorem, or in a manner of speaking, kind of a substitute for VAT. And that is linked to the price of the product.
Okay.
There are ranges, and that is what the 18 slabs are all about.
Okay.
Now, over a period of time, suppliers have moved up the chain within a particular slab and have ended up at the top of the slab.
Okay. Okay.
Once you are at the top of the slab, for you to jump into the next category, next slab, means a 1 rupee increase could land you with an 18 rupees per nip increase for the consumer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
So suppose you are at a price of 799 per case. That 799 per case becomes 800.
Okay.
Or it even becomes 825. So the supplier gets about 25 bucks more. But the consumer ends up paying between 15, 18, 20 rupees per nip pack, which is 180 ml, which is effectively the most highly consumed pack there. Now, if your price of a product is, say, 180 rupees and for the consumer, and you're talking about an increase of 18 bucks, you're talking about a 10% increase for the put down price of the consumer.
Okay. Okay.
Which consumers may or may not be able to take.
Okay.
Depending on where in the product segment you are.
The other thing that all of us know is about imported alcohol and the kind of duty structure there is, and Scotch Whisky Association has even gone to the WTO asking for the government of India to actually reduce those taxes, because they believe it's not a fair kind of pricing and a level playing field kind of thing. What is the status? I would like to know about that.
So I think I'm glad you asked that, because, and I'm glad asking about tariffs, because FTAs are all about tariffs, Giri. So if you look at it, there are no duties levied on Indian products or any products coming into UK and selling into UK. But when a UK product comes into India, or any other imported product comes into India in the alcohol sector, you've got 150% customs duty, right, on your CI. Add to that, you also have then multiple level of additional duties being levied on the product by the states. So that is one of the reasons why you're also seeing a range of prices of imported products. And it's discriminatory. It's discriminatory in nature, and hence, therefore, Scotch Whisky Association is taking this up at the WTO level, because the fundamental of trade should be that it is non-discriminatory. I mean, that's the fundamental principle.
I think one argument that the domestic industry holds forth is that they don't recognize our liquor, so why should we recognize theirs? So how do you look at that?
Yeah, so I mean, I understand that, because look, we are domestic industry also, Giri. Our members are in control of 47% of the volume of the domestic industry. So I totally understand the issue, because we are domestic too.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that, you know, this is perhaps, you know, let the discussions be around trade and tariffs. That's what the subject is. When you want to talk about non-tariff barriers, then you should bring it up. Bring it up at the right forum. So sure, but just to say that, you know, they don't recognize our products, but frankly, they don't recognize any country's products if they are not going to fulfill the definitions of Scotch as laid down by UK and 70 other countries. So I think this is a conversation really left to the two countries to be able to address this. Whereas the association should really be talking about tariffs and harmonization of duties.
I find that, yeah, Karnataka is the case that you talked about. How is it for the rest of, say, South India? I mean, one of the biggest consumers are from South India in terms of beer, for example. So, you know, Mr. Menon, I would like to know what exactly is happening in other states. For example, Tamil Nadu, which has very restrictive policies, and what's happening there.
So in Tamil Nadu, products below a certain price need to necessarily be produced locally. Products above that price can be imported from other states of the country. So a BII, for example, can be imported, or a BIO can be imported from overseas.
Okay.
Now, over time, what the state government is endeavoring to do is to make these products available in more and more depots of the retail distribution arm, which is called TASMAC. So these products are available. They're trying to expand the reach of these products, the width of distribution of these products, and trying to ensure that the ambience of the outlets. So they've got something called elite stores. So you try and create stores where in malls, etc., where a consumer can go inside. Now, because it is a media dark industry, unless the person is able to touch and feel the product, he does not realize that such a new product is available in the market. You know, I mean, they very often have to get away with whatever, taking away whatever the salesman behind the counter is offering them. So now you have a consumer who's looking at it from the point of view of a kick for the buck. You have consumers who are more discerning, who are at the premium end of the segment, who want to have a wonderful ambience when they are consuming the alcohol. So I think, therefore, the process is slow, but they are on the right track in trying to create those kind of outlets. In Delhi too, the concept of the outlets, private retail outlets being of a certain size compared to the hole-in-the-wall outlets that used to exist earlier was a move in the right direction and would have helped premiumization.
Okay.
Because so more and more consumers would have experienced the product that way.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you were to look at penetration of premiumization, then Telangana tops the southern states. It's at 54%. And therefore, you can also look at the collections, excise collections, and the productivity of collections in Telangana. Telangana tops in the southern states. Then it is essentially followed by, like Suresh explained, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Andhra and Karnataka are the laggards as far as the premiumization trends are concerned.
I'm sure next year, a lot more states are going to the elections, and there one of their agendas is to implement prohibition, which actually never happens, but that's one vote bank that they always promise but most of them just take the step backwards when it comes to actually implementing it, except perhaps Gujarat and Bihar. So if you were to talk to them, or if you were to tell them, what exactly would you talk to them about, and how do you see that something like this doesn't get implemented? It's not about
So,
whether one is in favor or against, but what kind of an argument would you put forth?
yeah, so first and foremost, ISWAI is comprehensively denouncing prohibition. Because prohibition, while it may sound very interesting as far as the political agendas are concerned, but it is the most damaging policy for its citizens. And you can see both Bihar as well as Gujarat have been examples of huge tragedy, have been examples of counterfeiting. So, what are you doing? You're pushing your citizens towards, lack of quality products, no standards, nothing. So you're playing with the citizens' health. And, you're cramming up your court systems, which are in any case already overloaded. So the byproduct of prohibition, I haven't seen a single state where I can, give you a case study and say that, it works out. I haven't seen it both economically as well as for the health of the citizens. What we usually go forward and propagate, and something we also said in Andhra, was, the dimension of niyantram is much better than nishabda. So prohibition is not the right solution for that, right? It is essentially to say restriction, responsibility is perhaps the right way to go for it.
Okay. Thank you very much for being guests on this.
Thank you so much.
For this discussion, Ms. Kappor and Mr. Menon. And even though it was short, I assume you covered a whole lot of points. Thank you again from the Federal.
Thank you for having us.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.